welcome to Public Poetry, the monthly poetry reading presented by the Houston Public Library and Public Poetry. Today's program will include readings from our featured poets, as well as an open mic session. We'd like to encourage you to visit Houston Public Library online at houstonlibrary.org and view our other digital programming. Thank you, everyone. And now I'd like to turn it over to Fran Sanders, the founder and director of Public Poetry. Fran?
Thank you so much, Justin. Don't you wish you could go to the library that's behind him? However, the libraries are pretty wonderful places in their own rights. And I don't know if you have any idea when they're going to be opening up, but I know as soon as they are, I'll be really anxious to be there again and to start doing some of these things in person, although it's totally wonderful to have all of you here that can join us on Zoom, because I know a lot of you wouldn't be with us if it were not for Zoom. So that's one of the things we're going to need to figure out in terms of how we keep together as a community, because I think that there really is a wonderful, special poetry community that's been built around public poetry and other groups as well. And so it would be great if that could stay together. I just want to say a couple of things about what's coming up and let you all know this is actually our 10th anniversary with the library. So this is the start of our 11th year in partnership with the Houston Public Library and the City of Houston, which is a pretty fabulous thing. And it's been an absolutely wonderful, wonderful journey. We're really, really honored and grateful to the library for helping to facilitate this. And I also want to give a very, very special thanks to all of the members and supporters who have kept us going all these years, as well as the Houston Arts Alliance and the City of Houston. So that being said, we have two things coming up. Many of you may have participated in the last contest we did. The contest is annual. There's a prompt. This past one was for the virus pandemic, and we had 3 amazing judges for that. We'll be announcing the winners on April 10th. It'll be on our website, it'll be in the newsletter, and it'll be on social media. The judges were Martha Serpis, Vicky Vertiz, and Maya Marshall. So it was really wonderful. And we will be publishing an anthology, as we do each year, with the winning poems and the finalists' poem as well. That anthology will be out in the fall, and you'll hear more about that. Our next prompt will be announced on the 15th of this month. And on the 17th of this month, there will be a special anniversary celebration. And I hope all of you will be there for that. It'll be something really special. So with that said, Carrie, do you want to do your group photo thing, shoot?
Yes. Yes, this photo shoot. Hi, everyone. I am Carrie Riegler. During these readings, I record them and I take pictures so we can remember them for years to come, and we also will post them on our social media. So it's great. Most people have their cameras on, so we can do this. So here at Public Poetry, instead of saying, 1, 2, 3, cheese, we like to say 1, 2, 3, poetry to, make it a bit fun. Okay, so on after 3, everyone say poetry. We'll take a picture. We'll have to do a few since we have a lot of people in this room today. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, poetry.
Poetry.
Lovely. Okay. Next. All right. Okay. Take 2. 1, 2, 3, poetry.
Poetry.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank y'all.
Good. Leela, can I turn it over to you?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we have 4 excellent featured poets today. I just want to say a quick little announcement, and this applies to the open mic as well. If the poem you're about to read may be inappropriate for kids or might contain something that someone may have difficulty with, please give a little trigger warning, give someone a moment to turn off the sound, step out of the room, shoo the kids away, whatever they need to do. Okay, that said, our first featured poet is Julianne Tran, who is a writer, translator, teacher, and entrepreneur. They are queer, non-binary, and Vietnamese American. They write and translate in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Their poems Bayou and Flute Flower can be found in the Houston Poetry Fest anthologies of 2017 and 2018. Other poems appear in Not My President, the Anthology of Dissent, Degenerates, Voices for Peace, LGBTQ, and the Stanford Journal of Asian American Studies. Please welcome Julianne Tran.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Leela. I'm so glad to be here in in Houston writing community, which I've really missed since in the last couple of years. I've been with my family in California, but again, really happy to be here with Houston community once again. I want to start off by reading the poem that was excerpted in the public poetry email. My first couple of poems are going to be about my grandmother. As I mentioned, this past week was her 1-year anniversary of her passing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to honor her in these opening poems. So I'll just dive into the first one. The Absent One. Day after she gave birth, she sauteed her placenta, went back to claim her block of City Street, snapped open the mended blanket for her wares, clothes, jewelry she could not claim for her own progeny. Her children took turns standing guard over the merchandise, how they gazed at the glittering spread. She never noticed, scouring the market for deals, a wilted leaf, a spilled bag of rice. Other days she walked door to door, bartering mathematics. She trained as a teacher, spent more time raising other families, seldom spoke except to discipline. An unwashed ear or a soy sauce stain on the floor in the shape of a puddled, lopsided heart. When she became certain they must leave or perish, she said to her clients fleeing the schism, "Take my daughter as your own. Take her home to America so she can have a whole and loving family. At last, I can give her what she always deserved." This next poem is also about my grandmother, but later in her life, when I knew her. Cafe au lait and grenade. I always hated my grandmother's quiet mouth, buttoned despite the summer heat. The sun ripened her limbs into hummingbirds. She, unused to silent sleep, rocked to and fro, a speckled egg that would not fall, yet dreamt of landing. Like past missiles, the Mercedes passes each day, her frail skeleton, its translucent freight. Front lawns glisten. Minute bubbles froth at the ends of her mauve lips. Her fingertips become sprigs of lavender and pine. Memory collapses into a cone. Suddenly, French, bonne nuit, grand-mère. With flashing knife, she quarters a Fuji apple, piles slices high in a blue-striped bowl. The day turns to syrup like many melted cough drops. She naps the whole afternoon, awakens cold, alone, Silence offers up a spray of gunfire, but she no longer believes in echoes. This next poem is, I guess, a slight care warning for mentions of warfare and violence, just diving into more, I guess, me imagining what my ancestors must have experienced. This is also a poem I wrote. It's an ekphrastic poem. It was in response to, I believe it was an exhibit at the Menil. I think it was at the Menil. The exhibit was called Nature morte aux grenades, which is French for still life with, and grenades in French, it can mean grenades or it can mean pomegranates, same word. So in English, it would be still life with grenades or pomegranates. There is a hush before killing. All day, a thread of starving lava ricochets a red trail, searing purpose into the backs of my knees. All night, under torn fatigues, I weep and juggle my bloodlust, thirst and sword, both invisible. All night, I dream of almond white entrails, birds spilling free from throats and chests, eggs for eyes. Swooping low, they embroider the earth with flame. I dream of times when magma surges, palms and mars the human breast. Times when bodies break open, memories snake behind blank eyes like pipes. Time lies grinning in a gutter. Still an apex turns a silent burning into foreplay. So the next couple poems, which I'll be signaled if I'm running out of time. The next couple poems are about kind of reflecting on the immigrant experience, specifically in an Asian context, but both in present day and in the past, when our family members, our antecedents, might have had to leave what they knew and loved in order to try to reach for a better life for themselves and their families. This is the poem that Leela mentioned in the introduction. It's called Flute Flower, in a less modern context. Flute Flower. Father stargazes on hilltops in lieu of praying when his palms start to emanate heat. Father hikes until his muscles quake. Through a brutal spring, he plays his flute on the roof all night. Inhaling temple incense, hearth smoke. Instead of supper, father drinks fire from porcelain. His legs fold into the house, the floor. Bells toll from far away, matching the wind chimes he chiseled from seashells. Two cranes take flight, leaving their chicks in piles of shattered eggshell. At dawn, together we wade through our drowned fields. Father speaks to the flute, asking, how are the mountains this time of year? How does it feel to be cut from your father? How does it feel to be made into an instrument? Father brings the flute to market, and I come too. We pause only to watch a girl stain her sleeves with spurts of chicken blood wrung from a live, glossy neck. Father stops at a stall where blanched silk lays drying. He hands the flute to a gap-toothed boy at the front. The crowd is silent. That night, he tells me to pack my pillowcase. I take a string of coins, an ivory comb, a leaf like a star. Next poem is looking at it kind of as, again, a take on the need to depart and rebuild, but in a more modern context. It's named after the street I grew up in, which is Meeshan Boulevard. Meeshan Boulevard. Love is like growing up the child of microprocessor engineers. After either trial, the world is yours to conquer. Someone else has laid claim to your suffering. You were capable of anything. You braved the maze of pain that coiled tight, wrenching down your dual core. Family demands gates of iron and lace, firewalls, tower windows through which only sun and moon can enter. We all buy success at prices we don't understand. Automate high performance infants bleeding, instant by instant message, drop in the trembling bubble, the noiseless flare of electromagnetic waves. Grow up moss-like in the shade of an oceanside city. Opportunities open like spiced steamed oysters while you strain for your own tongue to cradle the pearl. Because memory is a speeding train, a miniature world in slideshow amid darkness. Making memory may take us home or beyond, like the whirring of a disk head inside the machine. Dreams discovered only in translation. Projection is a bright burial, beams a white vigil over our sleep, guarantees a high return on investment, assigns worth. Yet this story is a language where we have sheltered. Yet ascension is a shorthand we share for home. Shifting gears a little bit, I thought it was important to follow this discussion of displacement, though it will come up again, displacement will come up again, but also to add poems that address directly like the mental health, like repercussions, the mental health, not just consequences, because there's good things too, but just the what comes out of being displaced and needing to rebuild. And some of that can come in the form of mental health struggle. So on that note, this next poem is called Medication. Medication. A child said, "What is a pill?" And my answer must first be silence, a summing of ears in the room, how attuned they are to the small weights of truth and innocence we daily palm and fumble. And perhaps this is the pill, a hush, purity and survival. When I open my mouth, I guess the pill is not candy, not the touch and release of sensory pleasure, not food, not the redness of your cheeks and scrapes. I say, the pill is a metabolite, handling my response like a glass paperweight. Or the pill is a crystal, storing then breaking open some minute piece of light. Like your keen eyes which glimpse the pill, or your curiosity welling up from a fresh spring. Or your peals of laughter which swim vivid as carp, up my ears' canals to make starbursts in my brain. The pill is a borrowed moment. We hope will blossom forth into more moments. We must swallow. Together we make the medicine that follows the pill. This next poem is In Talking to Myself or Religion. Cognition prickles at the back of my head, prayer with a crown of thorns, pressed against the muzzles of dog and gun. So this is why I turn inward in speech, though my lips are white with sarcophagus dust. In talking to myself, I try to evoke some language of lovers the cadence of conversation between halves, between whom there is communion. I try to knead some tenderness from this effigy of ashes, animated by never being enough, by being that which man cannot live on alone. My eyes blinded with sunfire, I try to invoke God. Often communion with a muse goes south like lightning down a kite string. Deliverer, says God to eagle, of mangled me bound to the biggest God-forsaken rock. My skull becomes the sheath that bears the wear of the sword I carry. I am the sword swallower in the caravan, the dreamer in the grave. Let me stride calmly to the table of knives. The poem is bread I cut in two. Myself, I live so many lives in the act of dying for. Another care warning before I begin this next poem. I guess care warning for mentions, allusions to domestic violence. That's all we'll say about this one. In which the cocoon is on implosion. A bruised woman made off with the night, panting steam into constellations. She's a standstill wreck laid out in her Camry, driver's seat cranked flat into a makeshift bed, headrest anointed with tears. Cicadas rattle like her fractured bones. A bruised woman clutches her fluorescent phone, crying into a stranger's ear. From outside, her cheek glows blue as veins. She says, I bled onto the ground. It kept sponging into black. It could have been a fugue state. The stranger replies, yes, if you stay, you will end up killing yourself or him. An arc of trees overhead had never seemed like murder. A bruised woman flings open the car door and vomits mucus-bound cocoons. Heave, 1, 2, 3. Mottled moths, almost extinct. She cups a single pupa and runs. Behind her, one shout rings out, her name howling, 1, 1, 1. Next poem, I guess we'll introduce a little more. This is the first poem I wrote in Houston. The first writing workshop I attended in Houston. It's facilitated by Kellyanne Ellis and Bucky Ray. And this is also needs a care warning. It alludes to a poet in the Houston scene who unfortunately ended up taking their own life. And it was such a loss for me that as I was joining the community, they were leaving it, or they had left it. So this poem is about that. It's called Doppel. I gave you not a thought for months, and then the next time your name crossed my lips, you were dead. You cracked yourself open under the stadium lights. You said, no more eggs, no more beer, no more everything forever. Such a rebuttal to life, to lying in bed, climbing trees, having sex. You bent all our yeses into silence. When I spoke your name, I was laughing, exorcising my own envy, dissecting gossip with friends I'd engulfed in the car. Together, we were one more haughty, cold-eyed insect, speeding down a hot concrete furrow, organs pulsing with jealousy, lust. Isn't it funny we forget how close we are when distorted by screaming velocities? It was always about me being bigger than you, than myself. Now there's only the sound of others threshing our odd ambition to meal. I guess you couldn't live with this. You'd rather splatter your heart on the ground than have someone take to it with a hatchet, even you. So I've written quite a few poems about Houston when I lived there. I think it's the only place I've ever really loved. Certainly the first place I loved, but I think it's the only place where I've been completely alone and still felt connected, because simply by being connected to the city, being connected to this bigger community, you know, it's so amorphous, millions of people that I don't know, right? But so it's always a source of so much love and poetic inspiration. And this poem is about Houston, is about that. Also something, it's conveys a sense of, I guess, emptiness sometimes that you feel downtown late at night, no one's there. Fitting, I thought, for the pandemic times when so many streets are empty, but we still can enjoy them, I hope. This poem is called Street Music. It lies splay on this map of black hot cracks. Cars flash open, sore naked, fleeing for the runway, narrow, marrow stained, and glide into the skyline of this brash, humid fever, declaring itself metropolis, whose windows teem hungry vows, whose offices shudder a neon canopy, emulating restless, filtering sunshine, bedazzled oaks who turn the fructifying key, call the pollen a cape to daze the shade-rich park. But this silent district's surgically enhanced arms are lovely mostly in the dark, stretch lingering life and livelihood, the color of waiting. Empty street, a weighty string of magnets charged with sacrifice, ambition. Swing the girth of this globe upholstered in skin. And those who dream of downtown come hands stained with money. Exchange rate unknown, but not ideal.
Thank you, Julianne.
Thank you. Okay, so our next featured poet, David Meeshan, has been honored by a pushcart prize for How to Shoot at Someone Who Outdrew You, a chapter of his memoir originally published in the Gettysburg Review. It's available in Pushcart Prize XLII, that's the 2018 edition. Anyone's Son, Meeshan's debut poetry collection, is new from 3, a Taos Press. A lifelong storyteller, he received the 2017 K. Ketterola Award for Best Short Story from the Texas Institute of Letters. Meeshan has fiction, non-fiction, or poetry in The Common, Copper Nickel, the Evansville Review, Salamander, Southern Poetry Review, the Southern Review, Valparaiso Fiction Review, and he is co-founder and managing editor of Dos Gatos Press, and he lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico with his husband, also his co-publisher and co-editor, Scott Werderman. Please welcome David Meeshan.
Thank you. I'm switching over to speaker view so I kind of have a sense of what you're seeing if you're using speaker view. I've got 2 poems here. I'm going to take you back to rural South Texas, inland of Corpus Christi, fall of 1957, and the second one goes into early 1958. What they have in common is Sputnik. If you are young enough or don't know that part of modern history, Sputnik was the first satellite launched into space, October 1957, launched by the Soviet Union. And Sputnik makes an appearance in both poems. The first one is called Farm Outhouse. Oh, excuse me. That's on the other page. The first one is called self-portrait with offering for a newly weaned calf. I grew up on a farm. Sputnik was circling. His weekly reader told him so, a single man-made thing moving 18,000 miles an hour above the dome of silence he had learned to call sky. And bird songs poked holes in the morning, and beneath their scissoring tails, the penned-up heifer, her bellows in blasts to crowd the hours out of patience. Grain stalks fall beneath a whetted blade. Sputnik falling, falling through empty cold. Shoeless, the boy whacks himself in the foot. He drops the knife, the gathered stalks. He considers the arrival of blood, of pain, of the cool at his scalp when the breeze shifts, the vein atop the windmill turning stiffly, creaking, pointing elsewhere. The other one is somewhat longer. It'll take up the rest of my time. And this one is called Skipping Rope, 1958. It's in 3 parts. Each has its own little title. January, Sputnik in the news again. Muted sunlight falls through bare mesquite. No leaves, no drooping shadows stitched of lace. In the open space nearby, 2 girls. Their rope a buzzing blur. The Russian satellite has fallen. 93 days in orbit, 1,440 arcs across the sky above you, looping, looping into the whirl the other girls in pairs, chanting punctured by shouts from the field beyond, blunt pops as the bat connects. Whoops upon the air, the boys exulting like gulls, like crows, a straggle of them coming at you when the teacher rings an end. Their calls burn the air you've taken in, but your rope keeps humming. You are inside the shimmer of the hum. You are safe here, pads of your feet bouncing, sheathed in loafers 12 days old. Your pennies gleam there, heads up for luck. March, Life magazine reports a disaster. Gray blusters at the classroom windows. No sky today. Warm enough for short sleeves, though fixing on the open page, you hug yourself. No news photographer on hand when a bus went off the road into this icy river. Rear door open in the artist's depiction, some children still inside, others in the water. The bus nose down. 27 drowning when your teacher says it's time to go outside. Your jump rope safe beneath your desktop. But the boys know that's what you want out there. A single word at their lips like a hammer. Girl, 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 girl. There is no stopping them. Here, stay here, inside alone again. Your teacher knows. She is stern, though sometimes kind, as now, walking out with the others, letting you stay. Your magazine open. Light shifts at the windows, a brighter gray of almost sun. Voices at play, the river swirling. April, Elvis gets a haircut. His music is everywhere. Your mother clicking her fingers, singing along. I don't want no other love. Baby, it's just you I'm thinking of. She's taught you the bop. Something to do with your feet when you can't be still. Toes tapping beneath your desk this morning. Windows open to sunlight, so clean and pure, your chest aches breathing. They drafted him. He's Private Presley now. Never get rich digging a ditch. You can jump rope to that. Out the door and all but running down the hallway when it's time. Ahead of the girls, but they will come to you this morning. You're teaching them the step you practice with your mother. Any Elvis song they choose. The boys have baseball. They have the name they call you. You have the girls. You have the bop. You have the hip swivel hillbilly with all his hair cut off. Your loafers jitter beneath you as if they know the dance. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here today.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah.
You gotta love something that incorporates Elvis. Reminds me of my mom too. Our next featured poet, Brittany Ray Crowl, is a native of Texarkana, Texas. She is the recipient of the Donald Bartholomew Prize in Poetry and the Lucy Terry Prince Prize, judged by Major Jackson. Her poems have been published or are forthcoming in Plowshares, Frontier, The Common, The West Review, Mount Island, Aunt Chloe, Coppernickel, The Journal, and the anthology Black Lives Have Always Mattered. She is a teaching assistant and PhD candidate in creative writing and literature at the University of Houston and poetry editor for Gulf Coast. Please welcome Brittany Ray Crowl.
Hello. I'm really happy to be here. I'm glad to see all of you. Thank you for coming. The first poem that I'm going to start with is the one that was excerpted in the email. It's called Your Navel Cords Well. It's a saying that my aunt used to say, my favorite aunt, which basically means basically stop crying, get over it. And it deals with, you know, how babies, when they're first born, you're not supposed to let them cry. Their navel will herniate. So she would always say this to me, basically just stop crying, you'll get over it, you're old enough. So your navel cords well for DLM. In my quiet time, I whisper you to emerge. I bagged your pillows in plastic, tried to trap your venom like wasp in clear jars, studied how to cultivate your scent. Something like the musk of menthols mixed with syrup or sugar water. But who can tell now? You left me, no potions to do this. I've never summoned anything from the soil like rain. If only I could loosen a tomb from red clay like milk teeth from soft pink jaw. But I am not a god that questions whom she made to destroy. Who am I to meddle the earth? Today is another distance. Your voice plats through my core. Your ash settles in some vessel on a dusty shelf. This hurt is a bulge. My belly bursts a bullseye open from sealed husk again. If there's any such thing as paradise, some after void better than the warmth of your neck, the sun-swept slab of your porch, with you there, the map of your palm waving. How close am I to that context of space? Where am I now with this mouth, an infant redbird wailing? Whose song is this with your ear turned from my tongue? And where does its echo call home? You're too heavy for cocoons, no hull to hold you. My next poem is called Blood Petition, a prayer of reckoning, and the epigraph reads, it's from Antigone. The house quaked by the gods lacks no form of disaster, creeping after all the clan. Dear blood, the answers feel like pails when the gods rain fire towards our home. This fight was unfair, unevenly yoked. All we had were our hands and our tongues twisted toward song to save us against their wrath. What's left relies on your discretion. Please choose. Would you rather the chaos come on Sunday, so close to Christmas you can hardly tell the colored lights from the flames? The sky turns red with cherry embers. So silent is the night that the baby sleeps, swaddled in darkness, resting against rising screams. A plague of spirits on your houses, a sea of fists stoning the walls you built. Your garden shot with salt. Nothing here will ever grow. There is too much dying to weed. The soil sours over the remnants of the seeds you planted, and the children are hungry, so very hungry, with no turnips to pull, no weeping breasts to root their mouths against. The walls of the altars grow silent. The rituals fail to take. There's no space for new names, though we crowd them. And we're lonely. Your prompt reply is requested. Everything relies on your discretion, kindly. We, the living, bound by blood. Answer, all of the above. The answers overlap. One hurt bleeds into the next. You fail. There is no consolation. There will be no retakes. You lose. And I forgot to mention that the poem is in the form of a multiple choice. And lastly, it's a poem called Derelict City of Our Origin. Your tongue was my tongue, stacking towers over Shinar, probing the city of God. They troubled the mortar between us. We carved our names into sky. Your name fell from my mouth and scattered. All the ways I used to worship you, we have no words for now. Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Right. Our next featured poet, Jules Gibbs' latest collection is Snakes and Babies. It's coming out from Syracuse Press this year. She is the author of the book of poems Bliss Crisis, which is published by Sheep Meadow Press. She is the recipient of fellowships from UCross Foundation, the Virginia Center for Creative Arts, and Willapa Bay Artist in Residence Program. She has taught literature and creative writing at Hamilton College and currently teaches at Syracuse University. Gibbs is the poetry editor for the Progressive magazine, and she is a lifetime board member of Punto de Contacto Gallery, where she curates the Cruel April reading series. She currently serves as vice president for the Adjuncts United Teachers Union, representing part-time faculty. Please welcome Jules Gibbs.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's good to be a part of this. In choosing the poems for these short segments, I noticed a connection between longer. And the first one is called Bind. It does begin with a play on the Zen koan that says, if you meet the Buddha in the road, kill him. There are no trigger warnings for any of these, though. And also good to know that Mao Zedong did write poetry, a lot of poetry. He was a poet. I think that's it for this poem. Bind. If you meet the Buddha in the street, melt him down, cast bullets. That's what Mao did. Cast him into densest form. You only think you want emptiness because you are already 99.9999996% empty. By existing, you are in tune with the empty pulse of the empty universe. It's not necessary to connect with what you mean. The elusive reply you think your shrink's waiting for, you'll never please her. Talking is as pointless as chanting, which is as pointless as silence. Dear child, the resonant space that holds us together and pulls us apart is what we are. Blessings and the obstruction to blessings. And then I noticed in preparing this that there was a connection with this other poem, which in my book, which is out, is called Crash, but was originally published under the title a poem with nothing in it. And I prefer that title, actually, A Poem with Nothing in It. And to introduce this one, I'll just say that I think it came from the idea of Shavasana in yoga, corpse pose, which many of you are familiar with. At the end of yoga, you lay in corpse pose, and you don't go to sleep, but it is like a kind of sleep where you just let go of everything. And the woman who would lead us into corpse pose at my studio, which doesn't exist anymore because of the pandemic, would guide us through that, just a total letting go of everything. And in that letting go, she would say, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing you have to do. And there's nothing you have to be. And I really loved that part of it. There's nothing I had to be. And you just sort of let go. And then when you come back, when you kind of rouse yourself back to your senses, again, as many of you probably know, the world kind of rushes back in, but you feel revived. So a poem with nothing in it. No sun. No sun with teeth. No teeth or tongues on days you need. Nothing to do or be. I'm giving you this poem with nothing in it in case you want the relief of the nothing it will give. It works like a woman to give you that, to not give you that. There's music and some other noise, but that's not anything. Maybe some crows hanging around with their rasps, stentorian. The hum of government is just the space where something used to be. Inboxes empty, in the den, no fox, matter unsexed. Your body talks of pain, but it's phantom. Nothing in the cracks of your molars, but the suchness of a future. Let's not go so far as dead, since that may still feel like something. Nothing in the synapse but leaps, no beginning in the Big Bang, nothing in cells but how you spark around your body, lighting up your insides at all hours like a sun with teeth, which is not a thing, and therefore you're beginning to think this might actually be something. But the poem with nothing in it has to seem like it's giving if it's going to deliver on the nothing you need. I'm giving you this poem with nothing in it, like a tear in the fabric. No sun with lips or arms to turn you into a blue narcissus. No baby teeth disappeared from under the pillow. No birds of death. No new forms of surrender or terror stirred. Not dreams where clumps of hair and teeth come loose in your hands. Not the viper pit or coronal hole. No one really knows into which category a dream falls, or if it's right to say the poem with the hailstorm really has a hailstorm in it. Crash, yes. You might be looking at your hands now, thinking how empirical they seem, how they hold all the thunder of your mothers. Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. I love that. Okay, so before we get back to our featured poets, we'll have the open mic. You can volunteer to read in the chat. You can also use the raise hand function if you would like to. We have the same trigger warnings. I will announce people as we go. What else do I need to say? Okay, let's see. I see a bunch of people volunteering. Okay. Alrighty. Mr. Peckham, would you like to read first?
Yes, can you hear me?
Followed by Gary and then Judith.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, everybody has been so serious that, and I hardly ever write anything funny. I guess you'll be the judge. I'll read a funny one that I did write during this crazy time. It's called, what is it called? Unnatural Section. And a lot of things struck me during COVID, including one of the big things was how frivolous large swaths of our population are. Of course, a lot of serious people doing serious work as well. But so anyway, now Darwin has said, despite what's in your head, that humans evolved from the monkeys. And all that is known is that changes were slow, having first to stop swinging from trees. Selections were made based on need, not desire. Opposable thumbs were on order. Our cranium growth made us less of an oaf. It allowed us to figure out fire. Walking upright was big as it gave us free use of our hands you could use for inventions. But it not only made us nimble and fast, it let us create new intentions. We did lose the tail and got slightly more frail as our skin became softer, less hairy. That may not be much, but we have a deft touch, and now we are not quite as scary. I fear for our future as it appears that it is a lot less of the fittest survival. It seems when we breathe, there is not much a need for changes to help beat our rival. Makes one wonder at best if evolution will rest or simply will change with the times. Perhaps brains again grow till our skulls have to blow and we all end up talking in rhymes. The next alterations might cause consternation as men's fingers resemble controllers. With the video games and very few lofty aims, most time is spent online as trollers. Whole brain quadrants reserved for sports data absurd, science thought to be banished to fringes. There will be little learned except how not to get burned, playing the odds as mutation impinges. For all that we know, our bodies will grow marsupial pockets in places that will let us adjust to each fad that's a must, interchangeable parts on our faces. Our eyes will self-tint and there won't be a hint of a change that will bring great attention. In our mutating cells, our frivolity swells, making genes of another dimension. The process will need to be something freed from its historically useful obsession with all the things good so that everybody could, so that everyone could have inordinate strains of progression. It's no longer the case that we need to keep pace with intelligent design concept thinking. It is no longer queer to have only one ear or to have a third mouth just for drinking. So as we evolve in ways not meant to solve the means of surviving in situ, there will be a mess, it's anyone's guess, until soon the reality hits you. I have little doubt our eyebrows will sprout in places we couldn't imagine. And when we become a species quite dumb, poets surely will fall out of fashion.
Thank you. Hey, at least we get pockets, right? Okay, next up, let's have Gary, Judith, Stewart, and then a whole bunch more people.
Okay, I should be unmuted. I was going to read something else, but after Jules read her poem about nothing, I decided to read this one. It's called Maya, which is, I guess, the Indian or Hindu word for illusion. Maya. Here in the dark, nothing is solid, nothing what it seems. Even this dark, only an image, nothing behind your head. Everywhere you look, colors thread the dark, colors dance to rhythms, too familiar to be random. You watch and colors unzip like DNA, divide in front of your eyes, colors branching again and again. Trees of color explode in the dark, colors overlap until colors no longer matter. Now, only white remains. Now, only the glare of shapes, too bright to see. Everything that is or was, everything that could be or could have been, everything, somewhere in this white, this glare, hiding for a moment, the memory of nothing.
Nice, thank you. Okay, next up, let's have Judith, Stewart, John Gorman, and then Laura Pena.
So my first poem is, it's called Sleeveless, and that's spelled S-Leavelless, sleeveless. I watch for buds, tiny scent tents, up and down bony branches like goosebumps. Roots regroup, shoots push, decay away. Together, they tell up from down like sweat-infused sheets. The next one is Meta for Ransom. Hurricanes roll off Africa, a sequence of spinning flat stones tossed in a warm ocean, all named, all destructive, like a large litter of puppies galloping in with the tide.
Galloping, nice. Thank you. So next up, let's have Stewart, then John Gorman, Laura Pena, and a whole lot more people. Hey, Stewart.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate it. This poem's called Another Creature Lovely Crawled the Tree. Another creature lovely crawled the tree. She sweetly inched to feed by me. She held her simple sunlit eyes to mine to see if we could move as one, unite to meld the nests we'd need against a growing cold to come. Her colors form and eyes alight, her want to see our wings in grace unfold. We turned to find a niche to foster flight. But body silken soft, this head was hard. A sunken, darker valley saw me sow my den alone. This loving other, barred but near, would settle in the sun aglow. Though two may winter closely night and day, a soul in warming light soon flies away. Thanks.
Thank you. That's lovely. All right, let's have John Gorman, Laura Pena, Roderick, then Harvey.
Hey, everyone. Just to dash your self-promotion, I signed on with Asher Lifelong Learning Institute in Galveston to do 8 weeks of discussion on Louise Glick. Supposed to start this coming Friday. This has enrolled about half as many people as it needs. So if you are interested in saving it, enter OLLI Galveston in your search engine, and you'll get everything you need to know. You have to be 55 or over to join OLLI. Now, the last 2 times I've read hunks of my poem Radioactive, and this concludes it, the last 3 sections. Rodeo news in the paper, a schedule of big-time singers, scholarship-hungry kids curry-combing their goats, entire chambers of commerce wind string ties to their throats through turquoise loops, but also floods in Kentucky, brown and lethal as hurricane summers here. One perfect white Victorian farmhouse holds a front page focus, as if Magritte had set it over his mind's sea, a North American icon, en voyage. But on the untelevised prairie, Fatina reddens in the hedges, feedlots empty toward Houston, redbud gleams from farmyard or ranch yard, a chalk purple light in the dusk. Far away, on our mountaintops, under our orbiters, antennae turn toward space, seeking the sad cry of cadmium-based people 800 million years ago. We're here, en voyage. What's old? Kentucky farmsteads, that flooding river, the hills from which the river rises, the earth, the sun. Rodeo, is old in Texas. Everything is context. In the context of unbridgeable space, so thin in being, most of it is barely there. The earth is a geyser of essences, birth after birth after birth, so rich we can live in it twice, once in memory. Any meagerness we feel is ingratitude. And animals, clique lights, showbiz, news, buckskin, souvenir hawkers, traffic jams out the 610 loop, palominos on Montrose. Let the mayor, Kathy Whitmire is still mayor in this poem, let the mayor emerge from a helicopter in her cowgirl dress. By pictograph, dry point, etching plate, lithograph, laser light, may the reduplications continue. May the trail rides swell. Our skies rain through our miraculous air. A sexual chant summons the tips of the new corn, and they knock up out of the earth. Can reality know itself? Maybe it's only here this happens. Maybe in this nook in the chill, the hopeless task of memory weaves just fabric. Enough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, let's have Laura Pena, followed by Rod, Harvey, and Tria.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you. So this poem is called How to Make Your Own Wonder Incense to Conjure Memories. Gather your ingredients and tools. Think on the memory you want to conjure. Write in red ink upon bay leaves and throw them into the fire. Crush pine cones and birch bark in a mortar and pestle, add cinnamon, and throw it into the fire too. Inhale that fresh scent. Remember what it felt like when you were 5 years old, running over the forest floor in bare feet and you didn't care, scratched and bleeding and you didn't care. The forest spoke to you, rock, rock, swampin', and you spoke back. Pine needles, fallen logs, frogs croaking, lifting up rocks and poking at scurrying pillbugs. Fingernails black with dirt, torn blue jeans and a t-shirt. Feliz y loca niña andrajosa. Stay in that moment, just 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's hear from Rod, then Harvey, Tria, Shen, and a few more other folks. Hey, Rod.
Hey, thank you, Layla. Thank you. And Laura, awesome poem. I just wanted to take a moment here to say everyone's been great. I wanted to make sure that I invited everyone to come back with us on Saturday, April 17th to celebrate public poetry and Houston Public Library's 10-year anniversary of the library reading series. More information will be released to invite everyone to this fun environment. Today, I heard Julianne Tran say something in one of her readings earlier that has been resonating through my mind. The line went, we all buy success at prices we don't understand. And I have just, that was very, it spoke to me is all I can say. And I'll be thinking about that throughout the day. Everyone else, I mean, the readings have been very awesome, but I just wanted to make note of that line that has been resonating with me. But thank you, Julianne Tran, for that. And thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. More information to come on our next events. All right, next up, let's hear from Harvey, then Tria, Shen, and a few more people. We've got a good list here. Oh, Harvey, I think you're muted. Still muted. Can someone help him?
Right. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, let me bring up the poem. First, if I may, I'd like to invite you all to Artful Dodgers Poetry, which hosts every third Saturday, an open mic, usually with a featured reader. Our next feature is Anne Drysdale coming to us from the UK. And I've posted an invitation in the chat with an email address. If you send me your contact information, I'll put you on our notification list. This one is called Dia de Muertos 2020 with an epigraph, Something There Is That Doesn't Love a Wall, Robert Frost. Mexico's Day of the Dead, November 1st, arrives just before America's Election Day, November 3rd. Payback, perhaps, for the border wall's gangrenous spread. And just who are these Mexicans paying tribute to anyway at our shared river-run border during those first days of November, that stormy 3-day period, a conflation of All Saints and All Souls Day with the Day of the Dead? Having concluded their ritual homages to gone girl mamacitas and chiquitas. Some say it's for historical personages washed up on the Rock of Ages, Pancho Villa Zapata, Santa Anna, a curtain call for time-honored patriots. Others that these air raid ululations commemorate the upsurge of non-swimmers driven to be hyphenated Americans, the fat chanciness of caravaneers weighed down by poverty, struggling to survive the water crossing. Their lungs fairly bursting from shouting a joyless Ayuda me, deflating like get-well balloons, the kind that sag from a hospice ceiling as that last bit of air leaks out of them, as it does from the dying patients below. It is traditional to bring flowers, post photos of the departed whenever possible, light candles, sweeten their passing with sugar skulls, the sorts of things Cortez's good Catholics are taught to do by rote on holidays before the Aztec in them rises up to demand human sacrifice, blood, lust, idling in SUVs. In Nogales, Sonora, and Ciudad Juarez, cartels stop shooting at each other, if only briefly, accounted by Sinaloan generalissimos time enough to reload and pay last respects. With cross-border attention spans, ours, theirs being short as the fuses on those suppository dynamite sticks dirt farmers employ to clear their fields of tree stumps. It is excellent that at least once each November, about as often as we gringos honor our unknown soldiers, our veterans, with, oh, say, can you see hands over hearts and flags flying, processionals come bearing fruit platters to the river's edge, where grinning masks packed with chocolates take in the sight. In the shadow of a stopgap scarecrow Hadrian's wall frowning down upon them, intended as a stop sign in English, Spanish, Spanglish. A migration of unmonarchical butterflies seek out their true north El Dorado, namesakes having been located in Kansas and Arkansas by Google Maps. Apple's Siri, when asked, cheesily sing-songing, here's an El Dorado, there's an El Dorado, calling to mind old McDonald's farm. North American streets of gold beckoning to emigres brightly as mousetraps. For more than 1,000 miles, the river that separates us stretches across New Mexico to the Gulf Coast and Old Mexico, a moat alienating Our Lady of Guadalupe from her American counterparts, cutting along the dotted line between North and South, leaving behind the unambiguous dead, a potter's field of brown-skinned corpses. Observers mourn them as they fall, fail the swimming portion of their American ninja entry test. Setting remembrances down beside the Rio Grande, the Mexicans' Rio Bravo, in which so many hapless dreamers splashing towards freedom drown. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation too.
Surely.
Next up, let's hear from Tria, followed by Shen, Linda, Pravadri, and more.
Hi. As a quick content warning, this poem does deal with traumatic childbirth. So, Godzilla's C-section. No one expected Godzilla to have a birth plan, to haul in a duffel packed with herbs and scented oils, or a playlist tuned for every stage of labor. In the birthing room, Godzilla won't huff placidly through jagged stars of pain, won't chant mantras about opening and strength until a baby just slides out. Fire at the mother-in-law poking her worried gray head in the door to ask why it's taking so long. Dilation wasn't charted for Godzilla, who knew immediately when the pain had turned a corner into danger and growled for the epidural with pure entitlement to its sweet relief. No one will dare to tell Godzilla, but it's bad for the baby. Just look at his bared teeth and shut the hell up. When the midwife calls for the doctor to cut in, Godzilla does not feel lost, eunuched, failed. He lifts a shiny claw and does the work himself, one clean, low cut through skin and scale, and lifts his own infant out. Godzilla bites through the cord and snarls at the nurse to close the wound as he tucks his infant to his breast. No one says Godzilla is less than a woman for all of this. He feels just fine about his birth experience. Nothing was done to his body but what he willed. He didn't have to buck up and give in. Godzilla is not disappointed or depressed. He curls his arms around his tiny babe and gurgles ancient lullabies, won't give it over to anyone else to hold. Godzilla's lost in love. When the baby roars and shakes its little fists, Godzilla smiles. A baby full of heat and pure will. No better birth than this.
Thank you. That's awesome. I love it. Next up, let's hear from Shen, followed by Linda Pervadri and John Simons.
All right. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. All right. Distant light. Above our heads, a galaxy of stars. Below us, a constellation of cities. 7 million light years in the past, a star has long died. Its light, like a drifting snowflake, finally falling on our distant waters. Below, scarcely any of us feel that death, when most are so consumed with Earth, absorbed in the constructed man-made systems. Star watchers that do gaze feel a sudden chill. In silence, they ponder on our fate. When our cities die, with our own novas below extinguished, will there be other watchers who see the memories carried by our lonely night lights? Okay. Well, that was really short. Okay, one more, also really short.
Oh, actually, we have a one poem per customer rule.
Didn't know that.
That's
okay.
the thing I forgot to say earlier.
Well, all right, that's fine.
Come back next time.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Linda, are you ready? Can't hear you yet.
Hi, sorry, how's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Hi. So the poem I'd like to share is from a little series of poems that I wrote that feature time as a character. And in this poem, time is hanging out after hours with eternity. And it was published by Gray Sparrow Journal a while ago. So it's called Time After Hours. Time and eternity, forever at play, walk into a bar on the other side. No one here knows the end of this quirky cosmic joke, but imagine them walking in, larger and messier than life, trailing in bits of everything from stars to sand, eternity droning on about everything and nothingness, time smiling and laughing with a hearty chime, chime, chime. Bartender pouring glasses of light and darkness as spirits come and go. talking about life and those silly lines they used to draw in the sand while love songs loop on the jukebox.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. All right, next up, let's hear from Pravadri, followed by John Simons.
Am I audible?
You're good.
Well, hello everyone, and today I'm going to read out a poem which I have written. I've titled it as Overjoying End. Today I narrate you a story about a girl whose life was full of glory, which came to an abrupt halt when she couldn't witness things at all. Her happiness, her tears, her groaning, her cheers were all enveloped forth and back in a world where it was only black. Blindness it is, the doctor said. Hope you recover soon, said her friends. But none realized, seeing the poor girl. To her, her world was dead. However, through the passing years, something entered into her ears, which completely broke her reverie, as doctor announced recovery. Overjoyed she was, enthralled. Who ever knew what waited ahead? Although she overcame all her difficulties, she couldn't bear the excitement. Down she fell and never rose, smile on her lips and eyes closed. They said, laughter stroke, wiping a tear. The excitement of it all she couldn't bear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's hear from John Simons. And if I've missed anyone, let me know in the chat.
Hi, thank you. This poem has a reference to an adult situation, which is called growing old. And so hope many will relate to that. This is called The Ground Game. We start to smell like a compost of life. Our quick sink soapings not doing the job. Even with rails to hang on to, our trips to the shower seem hindered endeavors. Juggling bath wash in one hand while keeping the other one free. Lifting one foot, then the other to scrub. Feeling pain for disabled friends and wondering how they get this done. We start postponing daily essentials and blaming the blades for missing the hairs, tufting up in earlobes and nostrils, along cheeks, chins, and lip lines. We envision farmlands reverting to fields of grass, not for smoking, but just growing wild, of weeds, not for healing, but sprouting. Free in the untended furrows, draining occasional orchards, lost in the last signs of care. Growths spread their shoots with abandon, returning the soil to a status of elders, lost in the memory of purpose. We get in end games, goals in the ground, plowing over forgettable moments to rejoin our layered origins, thinking more of the earth as the source of our time and perhaps a mystery of new life tomorrow. Thank you. Happy Easter, everybody.
Oh, thank you. And happy Easter and happy spring to you as well. Okay, if we don't have any more volunteers, I'm going to finish up the open mic myself. Now, as you all probably know, you're welcome to read your own poems, but you're also welcome to read one you like by someone else. And that's what I'm going to do here. This is Don't Allow the Lucid Moment to Dissolve by Adam Zagajewski, who passed away recently. This is translated by Renata Gorzinski. And I love this poem, which is why I have to share it with you. Don't allow the lucid moment to dissolve. Let the radiant thought last in stillness. Though the page is almost filled and the flame flickers, we haven't risen yet to the level of ourselves. Knowledge grows slowly like a wisdom tooth. The stature of a man is still notched high upon a white door. From far off, the joyful voice of a trumpet and a song rolled up like a cat. What passes doesn't fall into a void. A stoker is still feeding coal into that fire. Don't allow the lucid moment to dissolve on a hard, dry substance. You have to engrave the truth. Again, that's Adam Zagajewski. So anyway, let's get back to our featured poets. Let's welcome back Julianne Tran.
Thank you, Leila. Before I start, I just want to apologize to everybody. I wasn't getting the notifications. I had no idea I was so above time. So sorry to everybody. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your generous messages. I really appreciate the attention. I guess I'm not used to it. I'm normally pretty good about time, but I haven't read my poems for about a couple of years. So thank you everyone for your patience. And I only have pretty much went through my reading. I'll just read the last couple poems, which are the shortest. Flight before a hurricane. Mosquitoes press north, fleeing the monsoon. They are summer debris. They encounter spiders, deform into black beads on webs of gold. Small mercy. No ribbons of water like razors slicing earth. Instead, they die tangled in birches, find stillness by instinct. Far from floodplains contorting, some land without claim cocoons a poem. The touch of the plow is a far memory. Neat rows of snap beans have turned to verdant flux, fanned fragile veins embedded in velvet skin. Clarified sunlight coalescing to life, freed from displacement, from running. My final poem for my reading will be entitled Chaotic Dialect. When I write, I reach one hand into the dark. I cannot see what I am touching. God will speak to you through one of your senses, but no one considers equilibrium a sense. A sense is a house that floods every year, yet people survive inside. God built the house in a river. I drift, rooted in a half-sunken canoe, but still I mine the swamp. I'm surrounded by so much rain that each breath is a blessing. Each breath dodges currents and curtains of rain. The cloud's soft dreams I remember are flashes of terror, meaning the river or dream can cradle or kill you. Meaning in my dreams, I throw my mother over a balcony. Meaning in my dreams, I feel safe in my killer's arms. Meaning in my dreams, I sentence myself to death by combat. In my dreams, I am architect and arsonist. Destruction is a point on my map. Uncertainty counts as a place too. In my dreams, I suddenly begin to bleed, and there's so much of my own blood that I'm clothed in it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I love architect and arsonist. That's awesome. Next up, let's welcome back David Meeshan.
Thank you. I'm going to read two poems. And as with the poems before, these are from that collection that was mentioned in my bio, Anyone's Son. Both of these are pantoums. Pantoum is a poem that has 2 lines repeated each stanza, repeats lines from the stanza before. So you'll hear kind of rolling echoes And I selected these because it seems to me they're both poems about identity. In this case, about the struggle between a self assigned to the narrator and a self that he hears calling from within. The first of those is called Male and Female, He Made Them. Borrowed that from the Bible. On a table in shade, a cake, 6 candles, a lawn that shimmered with slivers of sun. We played pin the tail, played ring around the rosy, my knees stained green where I fell when she chased me through slivers of sun. The afternoon in shimmers, we skipped rope face to face, a humming blur around us. The grass a smudge of green. I chased her. We fell. Older now, a matched pair, laughter breaking free of our humming blur, we rise, still face to face, and dance, coupled, 1 double X and 1 XY, among matched pairs, younger, older, our laughter spilling. Dancers, we circle, our carousel spins. These couples are coupled the same, double X, XY, male and female, female and male, our world made thus, a spinning carousel, and we its moving parts. Dancers, a circle. The choice for me is fixed, woman or woman or woman. Though I was made otherwise, paired with a woman eyeing men. Not one of them, not one, can take my hand. Our choice is fixed, man and woman, woman and man, mother with father, husband with wife. I too will say I do. No man for me. I take a woman by the hand. I father sons. I yearn for XY paired with XY. Husband with husband. A dream of saying I do. This boy chased by a girl so many years ago, who yearns for man with man. He fathered sons. His boys play backyard party games. The children chase each other, boys and girls at random. A birthday cake awaits them, candles for the celebrants. Okay. The second one is, I would say, from later in the development of this self. The tone is a little bit snippy, but you'll probably forgive me for that. This one is called Butterflies Just Out of Reach. I am not here to make you comfortable. The mothers raised me otherwise, of course. Do not disturb your elders, they declared. Say yes, sir. Say yes, ma'am. Do as you're told. Of course, the mothers raised me. Belts, they said. The belt was the reflex slap. I said, yes, sir. And yes, ma'am. I fell into line. Backhand, too. There was no give in Daddy's love. My mother's eyes did all the rest. I tamed the wild inside, or should I say I tried, knowing they loved me. I gave myself no quarter. When I confessed to the priest, I prayed for prayer to tame the wild inside. I tried. I say I tried. My hands like butterflies the while, just out of reach. When I confessed, the priest prayed I be delivered from the sin of touching a body just like mine. My hands reaching, touching, free as butterflies released and trapped, released again. Decades of this dance, touching a body, sinless. 3 men who loved me taught me so, untrapped me, released me, danced me free. To one of them I said, I say, I do. 3 men who loved me taught me to let go of what the old ones might declare. To the elders then I say, I've said I do. I am not here to make you comfortable. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here with a group of you today.
Oh man, that's beautiful. You leave us wanting more. Let's welcome back Brittany Ray Crowl.
Hello. So this first poem is don't have it yet. I listened to a lot of blues growing up, and so there's a blues persona called Mr. Jody who likes to make friends with other men's women, and so I wrote a poem in his persona called Mr. Jody Makes Amends. In my last dream, you were ate up by ants. I woke up to my left hand itching under the head of another woman, matted with the swelt we built. The first lance gut me like a cool fish, Mary. It must have spit in your snuff juice-colored eyes to see, to come claim me like a dead dog, loose and hit in the road. I won't act like I didn't know how far I was from home and where running away was too, Mary. I had plenty of time to breathe against the powder settling in your twilight scent and didn't. I'm trying to save you from the memory. I'm trying to spread my face across your chest, to worry the holes beneath your collarbones, to study a maple buckeye of nipple, hungry like a small thing mouthing a sweet crumb greater than my belly can hold. I thank the ants now, Mary, aching honey, finding you. And the next poem is called 32 Teeth. It has some allusions to sexual references. So just wanted to put that there. 32 Teeth. Monday, picture me in the aperture. 20 years not old enough to drink what I mixed behind the bar. 20 years from my mother's breast is a lifetime in the gaze of a man that could be my daddy's friend. Says he'll take his old fashioned down the crease of my spine. Asks, how did I get my skin to trap the light like that? Says it kills him to see a pretty thing he can't break quickly as his wife comes back from changing the baby he tells me later should have been ours. Friday, white man in a Mr. Rogers sweater holding a camera comes early on my shift saying he's taking pictures for a calendar of the Little Fives neighborhood. Would I like to be a part of it? I've been to his direction. I asked if I could be June, my birth month. Tells me, fold your arms like this across the counter. That's it. Such a stunning girl. The way you wear your hair so natural. You look like you could be Foxy, brown, straight from the 70s, girl. I picture my shoulders smoothing the angles of his lens, brown light bending kaleidoscopic. Picture my mother hanging me against the wall, waiting for my month to come like a horizon. I always told you you should model, always knew someone would discover you, baby. 2 weeks, he hands me my face in a brown envelope. 2 photos, one better than I've ever seen, before my head haloed by bar lights and cocktail glasses, mouth like a palette of pearl. The second, the same, save for my breasts, bulbous, pixelated, reimagined, dolloped on the surface left to rise. I remember the arch of my smile bending higher when he said, "Oh, you can do better than that for me. Smile like you really mean it. Smile like the whole world will see it." 2 weeks, Mama asked for the day the calendar's coming. Oh, Mama, he never came back. And I think I'm at my time, right? I'm sorry I didn't set my timer. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've got about a minute if you have one more.
Oh, okay. It's really, really short. It's called a Cleaving. Today I make my tea with the vanilla soy milk you left. It clouds the cup like the birth of a star embraced in porcelain, like the dissipating breath a drop of blood makes in clear water. When you come to me, you leave things, a tapestry of well-meaning stains in the shape of recognizable things. Woman who left her blood in my bed as a goodbye, like a note in a rocking chair. Take yourself with you. Leave no trails like a slug. I carry the scent of you on my hands for days. You are the word caught sideways in the tender pink of my throat. A baby plunked in the neighbor's drinking well like a coin. My breast sweeping milk as I walk away. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. That was excellent. All right, let's welcome back our fourth and final featured poet, Jules Gibbs.
Hi, everyone. Great to read with you all, Julianne, David, Brittany, and to hear your powerful work. It's an honor. And to hear everyone else too. It's beautiful when a lot of voices can come together in poetry, and it's an honor to be part of it. I'll read 3 poems. This one with no introduction. It's called She. Women dressing up like women in women's dressing rooms. Women, many women multiply and divide. Wave many women limbs in many mirrors. Women's arms heavy with women's dresses, stitched by women in Bangladesh. Women in silk got women trouble. Women cocooned in distress. Ha ha, women. Women threading through women's wear, women shedding skin, synthetic and mammalian, shrunken in fibers of micro, women draped in naphthalene, milling polyester and chilly bugs of stuff. Women joined to the muchness of the voluminous, women swimming mammalian in seas of textless textile, sexless women humming around pumps and slingbacks, texting selfness. Women buy one, women get one, women looking, women pointing, thirsty women without boats or water, women without land rights or songs of acquisition, women rich as women, women in a hot woman mess. Mega women. Women dialing up women on the women's hotline, yarning a mythomotor of women, women stitching a women's genus, threading the woman's species through no woman's land, women charged up in electrostatic muchness, charging it to charge cards, in charge of nothing, charged with the soft crime of being women. Thank you. This next one, is an Ars Poetica, kinda. So Ars Poetica, a poem about the art of writing poetry. But I think, at least in my mind, it's something about attending, how one attends to poetry. I mean, that's different for all of you, right? There are a bunch of poets in the room here. So that's often a personal thing. And the last line is the last line you may recognize, and indeed I stole it from Keats. Always end your poems with Keats, right? Why not? And so it's from Ode on a Grecian Urn. It's called Stay. To stay all night, to pass the night as in prayer, to fail the way air often fails, to be less light, more key, to strum in the manner of atmospheres, traverse a sawdust forest, a stream to harass the janky spirit, a torrent to wait another year for salmon to draw their lovely carons over carons, to be erratic, raw in one's desire for what's beyond the rapids, to arouse a sense of static, to cause to never laugh again, to reside in dissonance, Chaucy with root juice and gristle, to be hurt by flawlessness, measures of success, to topple equilibrium, cabbage a little cloth from his coat in revenge, to mouth a dead language at the edge of your city, to speak in the full faith of deadness, to never come to the source, to make yourself prone to small musics, sink your arm in loam, to touch the spirit ditties of no tone. The spirit ditties of no tone, taken from Keats. And the last poem that I will read, in my book, it's called Want, but the original title is really the correct title, which is Protest Poem. As the editor at the Progressive magazine, we mostly publish political poetry. And so I was just thinking about protest poems, but I was thinking more than that. Sometimes I tell my students in their poetry to get anti, and then I was trying to think of like, what do I mean by that? What's the value of that actually, to get anti? And so I think what I mean is negation and sort of saying no, like finding your no and saying no as a way of making space for something else, like shaking something loose and making space for something else. And also as an assertion of like yourself and your values too. So this poem says no to a lot of things that I don't mean no to, and it says no to some things I do mean no to, but you'll get the gist of it. Let's see if there's anything. There's also this, in a letter Emily Dickinson was writing to her sister, she said, no is the wildest word we consign to language. So I think there's like a little bit of that in there too. Protest poem, last poem, protest poem. Whatever they want out there in the streets, the answer is no. Yes, no to the body's meridian, the tyranny of health, the symmetry of death. Whatever the Pope is calling for, no. No to the shamans divining a higher self. No to machete, corpses unearthed. No bullet, no background check. No chokehold, no freedom. No to the treaty, open hands of the medicine men. No to death birds, to winter and data, human cargo lost at sea. No to whereabouts unknown list. No to the oil slicks rainbow, arabesques left by shadow dogs pissing in the snow. No to the envelope of sleep, divine intervention, to the sadhu who held his arm overhead for 32 years and now wants to lower it. The arm simply says no. No to Adam and the atom of yes, its storm of no and no and no. We should have known it would end up like this, a pack of slavering mongrels chasing us into the impoverishment of no. Yes, we are practiced at poker faces. Shake our heads, no, no, yes, yes. But no to ahimsa, to Mothlight and Ginsburg, his hipsterous angels who blathered on, grew bitter, old, turned on their own, robbed our sons and daughters of their no. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Well, I have to say, this has been an absolutely fabulous reading. I mean, it's been an honor to present all of you. And I can't think of a more wonderful event for this, our 10th year, our 120th reading in this series. I'm just so honored to have all of you be part of that. I hope you'll join us on the 17th in a couple of weeks when there will be more wonderful poets reading and a number of other things going on. It's a surprise to me, but I'm looking forward to it. And I hope that all of you will join us again. You can find the registration link on our website. And if you'd like to become members of Public Poetry, any of you, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.